episode 18 of Let's Talk Short Track Racing. Tonight I am going to have Jake Wilson back on the podcast with me. I'm excited to continue working with him a little bit more throughout the rest of the podcast seasons and episodes. Welcome,
How we
Jake.
doing, Erin? Good to see you again. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Coming off a nice busy weekend at the racetrack. It was good to get back out there. Had a little something to do this weekend, and got a lot to talk about. And I'm really looking forward to getting to speak with our guests we're going to have on a little bit later on tonight as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a great episode. It's definitely going to be action packed and excited to get to talk to Johnny Benson Jr.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess to start, let's kind of recap. You were at the racetrack this weekend. I believe, were you at Auburndale?
Yeah, UARA Sportsman Series was at local track there, just not far from where you guys are there in Winter Haven and Auburndale Speedway. It was the races 6 and 7. They do kind of a twin 50 format when it comes to the Sportsman Series. Kind of gives the teams a break where you're able to go to the track and you're able to get 2 features, chase after 2 trophies, take home 2 paychecks. So it was. I like the format. A lot of fans really like it. I know some of the drivers sometimes aren't necessarily a big fan of the twin 50 format in case something bad happens in that first 50. It doesn't necessarily set yourself up for the second 50 very well. But overall, it was a good night, and it was good to be back at the track. That was my first time back at Auburndale in about 10 months, so it was good to be back.
Yeah, and I believe that race was a lot cleaner for that series than it has been the past several. Finally
Yes.
got everything back together.
Yes, safe to say that because Auburndale they call it the bull ring for a reason. It's just this little quarter-mile track, and it's very, very tight racing quarters. Everybody is looking to try to get to the bottom of the racetrack and try to get down there. And sometimes there's not necessarily a whole lot of room around Auburndale, so you kind of have to. It's kind of what we call kind of elbows up kind of racing, and it tore up a few cars back there earlier this year, so it was nice to have a little bit of a different flow to this race. The first 50 lap that we ran, it went clean and green the entire first half of the race before we had our first yellow, and it wasn't even for an accident per se. Somebody had blown a motor, and we had to throw the red flag, and then you kind of started having a little bit of issues, a little bit later on. Things kind of stacked up a little bit, but overall it was a pretty clean first race. Brandon Morris, who, if you've been a follower of the UARA Sportsman Series, Brandon's been a long-time competitor. He's got the most starts. But this was his first win in 14 races. And for a guy that's used to going out there and competing for wins, he hadn't been to victory lane since 2023. And I hadn't quite brought it up to him yet, hey, you're kind of on a little bit of a winless streak here. But he was able to kind of silence the doubters. And he had his first DNF since like 2021, if I'm remembering correctly, at the Freedom Factory. So to go from the difficulty they had in the last race to bounce back, win the first 50, that was a big way for them to start their night.
Yeah, and then in the second, I know Tim Socios had a little bit of a hard time getting a win, and he finally was able to get another one.
If ever there was a redemption story, it's Tim Sozio, because the last time they were at Auburndale, he crossed the start-finish line, took the checkered flag, gave the interview, thought everything was all hunky-dory, and then he went back into the tech shed and got thrown out in tech.
Yeah.
And so their night went from being really, really good to not so good. So for Tim, he had a solid first race, finished third. That's where he got the start in the second 50, and he really just did a great job at staying up front. And Dodge Carlberg's been the man to beat in that series for the last, year and a half, 2 years. And Dodge was breathing down his neck the majority of the race, but when it came down to it at the very end of the race, when we had some late race restarts, Tim had a really good short-run car, and he was able to really kind of pull away and hold off Dodge. And so for Tim, that was his second career win, and second win at Auburndale. A good bounce back for him. And I mentioned Dodge. Dodge ran second in both the races, so for him, a really good points night. For the driver that took over the points lead going into the night, was very smart, very mature, because in that first race of Brandon Morris, he definitely, I think, could have got to the bumper and could have maybe moved Brandon a little bit, but kind of showing the signs of a racer that's beginning to mature more and started to think, big picture. Let's think about a night where we can get out of here with a really good points finish, and we could possibly, extend our points lead. And that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, very strong run from them. And then also a little switching gears into the super late models. ASA had a doubleheader this weekend at Madison and Slinger.
Yeah, it was kind of a unique deal there where you get to run 2 races in 3 days at 2 different tracks. And for a lot of teams that had to haul from different parts of the country, it made a lot more sense economically for them to do that, and to do it both at Madison on Friday night, and then to turn around again and head to Slinger on Sunday. That was a pretty big deal. And Friday night's race, we want to talk about some attrition. There were a lot of drivers that did not have a very good time on Friday night. Carson Brown had a great night.
Yes, one of the few.
Campy Racing. But there was, if my notes were correct, I believe 20 cars started and only like 9 cars finished the race. It was a lot of cars that had accidents and had mechanical issues. I know Ty Majeski was one of the first drivers to have issues, like right out of the gate. Like they weren't even like 20 laps into the race, and he was already having problems.
And then it's a quick turnaround time for them to get to Slinger, especially those that did have accidents and parts failures.
Yeah, I mean, so Majeski starts up front there, and he pulls off after 13 laps. Derek Kraus has issues. Derek Thorne has issues. Dawson Sutton has issues. Gabe Summers had issues. Well, you've got to kind of forget about that, and you've got to switch. Okay, we've got to focus. We've got a whole new race. We've got to get there first, and then we've got to make sure that we're ready to go for this grueling, 300-lap race that we're going to have around this really, really fast, tight little racetrack at Slinger. And, I mean, the story all year when it comes to ASA, I mean, Cole Butcher has just been on an absolute tear this year. It was no surprise to me that he was going to have a chance to possibly, get out of there with 2 wins this weekend. Didn't quite get it done at Slinger, but man, he looked good. Looked good there on Sunday, or had the issues there at Madison, but looked really good at Slinger. And a lot of drivers that did have issues at Madison on Friday night, they were able to kind of rebound, salvage their weekend, and had a pretty good run. So it was nice to see that. Ty Majeski bounced back, finished second. Stephen Nassy was able to finish in third. Derek Kraus finished up there in fourth. And Gavin Bushell, who won the season opener earlier this year down in New Smyrna, he got rounded out the top 5. So, I mean, some drivers, though, some tough breaks. Luke Fenhouse, who's a Wisconsin driver, certainly knows his way around Slinger, former Slinger Nationals winner. Led 134 laps. He led the most laps in the race, but crashed out and had issues on lap 170, and just barely got past the halfway point. Just had a really, really fast car at the beginning of the race, but wasn't able to be there at the end. So I know that was a tough break for them, as they're going to get ready to try to get their stuff to put back together. And the Slinger Nationals is coming up. They're just a few weeks away, so I know a lot of teams are going to start to shift their focus towards that. Yeah,
it is coming up quick. But we are going to head to a quick commercial break, and then we will be back with our guest. This echo is going to get the best of me tonight. But we will be back with our guest, Johnny Benson Jr.
Buying or selling a home? It's more than a transaction, it's a strategy. I'm Amy Lynn, and I bring clarity, confidence, and results to your real estate journey. Whether you're searching for the perfect place to call home or preparing to list your home for top dollar, I've got you covered. With smart marketing, strong negotiation, and a network you can trust, I don't just help clients close, I help them win. Let's make your next move the right one.
Hi, my name is Joe Constance with Joe's Racing Products. My company has been producing high-quality racing components in the USA for over 30 years. We know the commitment and determination it takes to win races because we race too. We're determined to produce quality products that can help you get to the finish line first. Ask your dealer for Joe's Racing Products or visit us online at joesracing.com.
Welcome back to the Let's Talk Short Track Racing podcast. On the phone with us now, we are going to be having Johnny Benson Jr. join us. He has raced in multiple series throughout late models, currently still racing in the supermods. He's raced NASCAR. Pretty much if there's something with four wheels, he's driven it.
Yeah, Johnny's doing it right. I mean, he goes and has, a 15-plus year NASCAR career, and then when a lot of guys, are maybe thinking about maybe hanging it up and calling it a career, Johnny's just gone ahead and jumped behind like the fastest, most badass cars you could possibly get behind, and that's what Johnny's been doing for the latter part of his career now, and for him it's got to be so much fun, not having the pressure like you would have to compete in the NASCAR world to get to go out and run these super modifieds, and I can't wait to get to talk to him about it.
Yeah, welcome, Johnny. Can you hear us?
I can hear you guys.
Awesome.
Johnny, thank you so much for taking some time to come on here and chat with us and talk a little short track racing, and we'll talk a little bit about your career, but all the cool things that you've got going on, and of course we're going to touch on the super modifieds that you're still currently jumping behind the wheel of and getting to have a lot of fun. I mean, just kind of tell us a little bit here. We want to go back. We want to touch on, some of your like earlier ASA days, of course, but kind of give the folks kind of an update. What's Johnny Benson Jr. up to these days, and what made you want to jump behind the wheel of these badass super modifieds? Oh, I might have lost you guys there.
Nope. Johnny, can you still hear us?
Oh.
Johnny, are you still there?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Did you hear Jake's question?
Oh, I can only hear you.
Oh, you can only hear me.
Yep.
All right. So we were kind of going back and forth talking about a little bit of your career, kind of what got you started, and then kind of what's led you to continuing to drive the modifieds.
Yes, I originally when you back up, my dad raced obviously at up at Berlin Raceway and things of that nature, and then I started racing on late model series and around the Benson area in Ohio and stuff like that, and I did that for a few years, and then started into the outlaw late model asphalt cars, and we did that for about 4 years as far as running at Berlin and Kalamazoo and a couple other tracks, and we're fortunate enough to win a championship in that. Then had an opportunity to go run ASA and ran that for a few years, won a championship there, and then did the Busch Series and did the same thing there, and then ran in the Cup Series, and then I was like wanting to slow down a little bit, and then joined the Truck Series and ran that, won a championship, and then I was like being on a travel with all the race teams, things of that nature. I was kind of over that, so I decided to still run my outlaw late model, and then I got hooked up with Brad Thickney he's out of Canada up there, and started running the Super Modified. And I really only ran one season with him, but I do a lot of like hit and miss shows, something like that. They're going to be run 70% of the races, and then kind of doing that again this year. I think I'm not going to I think maybe 2 races or something like that, and it's really enjoyed that. Probably my last year doing this, I'm getting a little too old to go that fast.
And speaking of your ASA days, what was it? About 2 weeks ago, we had a whole episode dedicated to Mike Eddy, and I know you competed against him in the ASA series. What was it like to compete against him and some of the other legends like Mark Martin and all of them in the 90s?
Oh, it was great. I mean, I think that series at the time was just incredible. With you got all the great drivers. Like say Bobby Seneca and Mike Eddy, of course, and
I think we
Bobby Seneca and things of that nature. So yeah, it was definitely a great series.
Can you hear me again, Johnny? We keep going in and out a little bit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me at all?
Now I can.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Did you hear? I'll go ahead and re-ask my question just because I don't know how much you heard. But yeah, we were talking last week or 2 weeks ago to some fellow racers and competitors for Mike Eddy, and talking about your ASA days. What was it like competing against Mike Eddy and other drivers like him?
Yeah, Mike Eddy was obviously a very fierce competitor, and I ran 4 years full time. The first year we finished 8th in points. The second year I finished 4th in points, and then on the third year I ended up 2nd in points. So I actually tied with Mike Eddy on the last race, but he won the championship off. He had one more win than I did. And then same with the year that we did win it, I was racing against him too. I mean, he was just an incredible driver and super nice. But on the track, he was tough. I think that, it seemed like everybody ran into something with him, and including myself. But it wasn't nothing big and huge that carried on for years like him and Bobby Seneca. But yeah, I meant just such a great guy, and I did happen to see him. It's probably about 4 or 5 years ago. His kid was racing up at Sandusky, Ohio, with the with the IMCA modifieds, I think they call them. I don't know what they call them, but and I was running the Super Modified up there, so I did get an opportunity to sit and chat with him for maybe a half hour or so ago, or half hour or so, something like that. It was kind of cool to see him, where I'm just kind of playing around doing some racing, and he was helping the kid, and we weren't being competitive with each other, and it was just enjoyable time just sitting there chatting with him, and not sometimes competitors when you're at the racetrack don't talk that much, right?
Yeah.
So it was quite a pleasure to just sit with him, like say, for half an hour or so, and just talk about just odd stuff. Obviously, some racing, and with this kid racing, and with the the Super. I don't know if he's ever driven one. We kind of chatted about that. And that was that was a pleasurable time just to kind of just hang out and talk and not being competitors.
Yeah, it definitely changed an environment.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
like,
yeah,
can you
yeah,
hear
go ahead.
Jake
Sorry,
when Jake
I was
speaks?
just going to say.
I cannot. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Erin. Yeah.
Oh no, you got it.
Yeah, I was going to ask for Johnny too, like that 1992 season he referenced there is going to go down as like one of the most like epic seasons ever, where it was so back and forth. What was it like being in the middle of that, being a younger guy getting to compete against a guy that was going for like his 7th championship?
Yeah, Johnny. Jake's asking about what it was like being the young guy racing for your 7th championship.
Or racing Mike for his 7th. Yeah.
Well,
Racing
I'm not
against
young.
Mike. Sorry.
Oh, that's
Racing-
like, yeah, I was still, I was still in my late 20s when I raced against, Mike and in the ASA. I mean, I did not, I started off late. I was 19 years old when I started racing. And so it was kind of, you have your goods and bads with starting late. But racing with those guys, I think being a little older and mature, it obviously helped me out in that scenario. But, going to ASA, I mean, I was used to running 40, 50 lap races and then turning around and getting into these 300 lap races with pit stops, which I've never done. Was a little bit of a challenge, I guess, in the beginning until I started, really figuring out what to do and how to figure out, what strategies you wanted to do. Because theoretically, I was kind of crew chiefing. I did have a guy there with the name of the crew chief part, but pretty much between the two of us, we'd set up, or I'd set up the car. He'd help me do that, and he was the guy in the pit box. But just trying to go through strategies, and he's never done that either. So it was kind of a cool deal to go through that together and be able to go in a championship in that type of scenario, which I'm sure we're not the only one in that deal doing it that way. But that was really satisfying to be able to go do that and win that in the fashion that we were doing it.
Yeah, for sure. Do you remember kind of a time or when the light bulb went off that you decided you wanted to switch from, because if I'm not mistaken, you did help and were building cars, and then you switched to become a driver?
Well, I did that. I actually kept building cars the entire time. There was times when I was running ASA, we were actually racing out in Calgary, and at my home track at Berlin Raceway there, like 3 of the guys wrecked. So instead of me driving the hauler back, I had to quit get on a plane to go home and get these 3 cars fixed. And so I pretty much did that throughout my career. When I first moved down south to run the Busch Series, I wasn't building cars at that point in time, but I had so many calls from people up in the Michigan, Indiana, Ohio area still wanting cars, and then I built a commercial building and started building the cars again. And so I was actually, when I was racing cups, still building race cars, and did that up until 7 years ago. I finally quit doing that. So that's been my longest career in the workforce was actually building cars in instead of just racing. I started in my dad's shop at 7 years old, and by 10 years old, I'm welding aluminum race seats and gum cans, and built the first car from the ground up at 13. So I mean, I would say that was more my career than the racing aspect of things. But I really enjoyed doing that, and designing new cars, things of that nature, and that did help me in the racing, obviously. But yeah, I'm kind of overdoing that now.
Yeah, I'm sure it helped a lot within the racing because you knew exactly what did what and why.
It does. I mean, I think there's a lot of drivers that really do understand race cars, and then there's but then I think in today's world, the good guys, they understand race cars. Don't get me wrong, but they're crew chiefs and the big teams that they work with all their engineers and simulation and all that stuff. The the driver is not involved into that as much as I think they used to back when I was running. And they kind of just go by the data now and things of that nature. And they move some things around that suits what they like in a car and things of that nature. And you can see that with various teams that have multi-car teams. There's a lot of times there's one driver that is just way out there and is so good over the others, and it's because he does understand the cars. He does know exactly what he wants and things of that nature. And I think that'll always be part of the sport, but it's definitely different today than what it was when I was running.
Yeah, and nowadays you don't really see kids learning like you did. They didn't have that hands-on. Nowadays they don't have that hands-on experience of building the cars and putting the cars together. It's a lot of the arrive and drive rental deals. Does that make you, or did it make you appreciate the equipment more when you are, which I believe the answer is yes, when you're the one building
Well,
it?
absolutely. I mean, there's, some of these kids should work in the shop and they should work on different things. And, because, I mean, nowadays, I mean, I was devastated if you even thought about wrecking a car, because I understand the amount of work it takes to get that back to where it was. And I think today they don't care. Hey, if you wreck a car, whatever. But it's definitely a different mindset today. But I think the guys that do understand it and that run well and win races and things of that nature, the guys that don't wreck cars have been through the scenario like I have, where they understand everything. They understand the amount of work that goes through it, and I know the sports is getting younger and younger, and there's a lot of talent in there that probably don't need to be there right yet, but they are there, and they are going through the painstaking of wrecking cars and wrecking other people and things of that nature. And I think that the guys that did this and built cars and all that are more apt to not wreck cars as much as the person that doesn't do that. And in right, wrong, or indifferent, I mean, it's just the way the sport is now. I don't. I guess to me, I don't really care, but it does have a different outlook on things. They just want to run them on the ragged edge, and if they wreck, they wreck. They don't. And some of the people get praised for it, and some of them don't. Jeff Gordon was that way. I mean, he was such a great open wheel racer. And when he came in and he's in the Busch Series and went to Cup, well, the first year he had wrecked a tremendous amount of cars, but he understood, and he got to the point where not wrecking cars and extremely fast. So he had one bad year of doing that, and then after that, he was spot on. Where I see a lot of the stuff nowadays. They may be in their second or third year and still doing it. They're not making that progress that some of them are in.
Learning from their mistakes.
It does, and my dad had always told me this for years. He goes, the driver's only about 15% of the equation, and I was actually pretty irritated when he said that. And he goes, no, I'm not saying you're not a good driver. What I'm saying is you were better in the shop. And the reason why you went out there and beat him every week is because you did the work in the shop and got the car right.
Yeah, it gives you more
he
passion
said that,
too.
It does, and it drives you to be better. It drives you to, make the cars better. Building cars. You're always thinking of new things that, not only for yourself but for customers, and so you're always fighting. And being in Michigan, it was tough. You had my dad's place for building cars at Benson. We had Port City Racing there, just over Wisconsin. There's, there's Left-Hander, and there's Howe Racing, and some of the biggest car builders were all there. And the track I ran at Berlin was was kind of a test track for them because it was such a difficult racetrack to make a car go fast, that when they felt that they had something that was good, they would, the guys like from Wisconsin, they would come over with their cars to find out where they stood against us. And at that point in time, between my dad and Port City and then Jimmy Heiskins, we're the only cars winning races. All the other cars were not winning, so they would come over there just to see how they stacked up against the car builders over there, and vice versa. I mean, a lot of us would go over that way too, but that was such a hotbed there for people that built cars, that's where they would come to find out just how good their stuff was.
Yeah. And I guess also let's switch gears a little bit to what you're doing now currently, which is racing super modifieds a little bit. And we have a super big modified race coming up at Berlin next month. I believe it's on the 11th or 12th of next month. How excited are you to get back into the car at your home track?
Oh, very excited. This year the first two races were, weather canceled. I meant one of them was just super cold, and the other one they had some rain and things of that nature. So we ran last weekend. We ran in Delaware, Ontario, and Canada, and then we raced in Lancaster, New York, which is just outside of Buffalo. So really I've only ran the two races, and it was a doubleheader. It was Friday night in Delaware and Saturday night in Lancaster, and then not this weekend, the following weekend we're racing Ashland in New York, and then of course we go to Berlin on the 11th to 12th, and that's also a doubleheader. We got a Friday night show that I think is 40 laps. I'm guessing on that, and then Saturday night race I think is 65 or 70 laps. I'm not sure, and so that being a doubleheader, the doubleheaders are cool because they're two separate races just run back to back. And so it's like you do Friday night, you do all your practice, your qualified, your heat races, and your feature. And then Saturday you start all over. You do your practice, do your qualified, do heat races, do your feature. We do a couple of those throughout the year, which are pretty cool because the fans will be able to go there and see the races. We do that at there. We did Sandusky. That's a doubleheader on the same track. Sometimes we do two races that are close together, and it helps with the travel and expenses. And but going home to Berlin is so cool. I mean, it's obviously one of my favorite tracks to go race there. I've raced there for many years, but just the crowd there is awesome. They're super supportive of both racing and very acquainted with the drivers that they like. They're very passionate for the drivers that they like, and I really like that at Berlin. Now there's been times I've been on the side where I won too much and they didn't like me as much, but when I quit running there full time, did the SIE, started doing the Busch Series, I would always go up home with the Outlaw Late Model car and go race. I mean, there was times I was going up there every other week or every 3 weeks, and on an off weekend I'd just go up there and race. And a lot of the fans appreciate that I come up and do that because I do support the grassroots racing, and I love going to the dirt races. And I mean, if I was going to pull off and go to watch a race right now, I'm either going to go watch a Real Outlaw Late Models or the Real Outlaw or the high limit sprint cars. I love dirt. I raced dirt for a few years, and that's a pretty big passion for me also. But the Super Modified is definitely a bad to the bone race car. There.
Yeah, you're leading me into my next question, which is, it is so different than anything you've ever driven previously in your career, other than the dirt, maybe a little bit. But what is that like to feel all of that horsepower under you?
Well, the horsepower it definitely got a lot of horsepower, but with the wings on it, similar to the sprint cars, you got plenty of horsepower, but you got plenty of downforce, which means that you're going to be going really fast. And Berlin is that style track that you're going really fast around there, but you're still sliding around as much or is any track that we run at, and it's very difficult there. And there's really no straightaways. A lot of the tracks that we run, you get through the corner and you're pretty much wide open coming off the corner. You got a straightaway that's straight. And Berlin doesn't have that. The front stretch is arced the whole way. The back stretch is arced the whole way. And when the tires start to wear, you can't, even with all the downforce, you can't get the thing on the floor. It just spins wheels in. But you're still doing that at a very high rate of speed. And I think, when I ran the World Tour, although late model there, we run around a track in 15 seconds, like in qualifying. And with the Super, we're in low 13s to upper 12 seconds. So you're at least 2.5 seconds faster than the fastest car I've ever ran at Berlin. And it's kind of insane.
Yeah, it's very impressive. What do you think of the job that Jeff and his staff have done at Berlin or with Berlin? It's definitely a destination, and they fill that place up.
Oh, it's incredible, and Don DeWitt took track over years ago. I used to be a limited partnership in it when the Whitecaps had it, and then Don got involved and bought the track, and then us limited partners weren't involved in it no more. But and they've done over the years a tremendous amount of really cool stuff. They put suites in on the front stretch. They knocked some of the bleachers down in 1 and 2 and put a party deck there with grills and stuff. So if you had, somebody, a company wanted to come there that would bring anywhere from 20 to 100 people, they have a spot for you. And it's just all on a deck. You can cook food there or whatever. And then they knocked a little section off of turn 4 and put a entertainment thing there. So they have a bar with beer and some sip and shine stuff, and then of course you got regular liquor there too. And then a stage for live music for after the race. They push their program a little earlier, so you're done racing early, which my dad has always been very adamant about. It's like, we need to get out of here because he may not want to eat a hot dog or a hamburger or have a beer at the track. He wants to watch a race, go there, leave, go to one of the local places and just get a bite to eat and hang out there. And Jeff and them have done a tremendous job with, accommodating people like that, let's get the race done early, and then they put that entertainment in there. So the people that do like to stay late, they can stay late, like I say, enjoy a beer and stuff, listen to my live music. And that's just, it's just been incredible. There's a lot of certified people. They come from all over the country and come to watch the race, which is pretty cool. And I know when we're going up there in a few weeks, we've got 10, 15 people from down here in North Carolina that are literally going up there just for that race, to watch us race up there, which I think is very cool.
Yeah, it's definitely, like you're saying, with the live music and everything, it's definitely becoming a destination racetrack. It's a track you always hear about, but it is truly becoming a place, and is a place that you have to go see for yourself. And it is, I was there last year, and with the live music and everything, it is a fun place to be.
It is. It's very fun, and they got the campground now, so a lot of people bring the campers up there and stay, and there's a group down there. They got a little square area down there that they'll be up all night, and it's it is so cool. I'm pretty proud that that's my home track, and I'm not just saying this because it's my home track, but I'm also saying this because it is so cool, and I used to rate tracks, and I think Berlin is my top 5 hardest racetrack I've ever raced at. So it is hard. It's competitive. it's tricky and things of that nature, and it's just a unique facility, and it's been there. I've been going there since since a kid, since 4 years old, and worked on my dad's car when I was about 13, being down in the garage area. I spent the majority of my life at this racetrack, and I still love going there, racing and competing. Or at times, I've just gone up there to either help some people or just watch a race, and it, it's an 11.5 hour drive for me, and I still go, up there at times, just because it is such a cool place to watch a race.
For sure. Well, I know that you're excited to get back there in a few weeks, and we got to wrap up this portion of the show, Johnny. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk to us tonight. Just to wrap it up, what does the rest of the season look like for you, and where can the fans see you?
So I don't know the dates off the top of my head, but so Oswego, New York, on the 28th, and then of course Berlin 11th to 12th. Now there might be weeks in between, but then I think the only ones I'm running after that are there's Jennerstown, but I think that's in September. Sandusky Speedway, don't know the date off the top of my head. I don't have a calendar out on it. And then we actually, last year's the first time that we raced down here, about an hour from me at Caraway Speedway. So that was a great race. Got a lot of support with the Super Modified, just a long drive for them, and come down. It was a great show, and things of that nature. But I think those that's what I got now is Oswego, Berlin, Sandusky, Jennerstown, and Caraway Speedway. I don't believe I'm running Lee, or I know I'm not running Lee, and I don't think I'm going to run Evans Mill, but which is up in New York. But other than that, that's what I got left, and then I may call it an end to my racing stuff at the end of this year. But I do enjoy doing it. I may do one off or something like that. Maybe next year if they talk me into it, I might run Berlin. But that would be the only one that I'm going to do.
All right. Well, you heard it first. He might be hanging up the helmet at the end of the season, but just doing a few pop-up races throughout after the season. But thank you so much, Johnny, for coming on, and we look forward to watching you throughout the rest of the season.
All right. Well, I hope to see you guys up at Berlin. If you guys show up, that'd be awesome.
Yes, we have a super modified here in the shop that we will be breaking up.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
We'll see you there.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Johnny.
Thanks, Johnny.
Yep. Bye.
All right. And after these few messages, we will be back.
Hi, my name is Joe Constance with Joe's Racing Products. My company has been producing high-quality racing components in the USA for over 30 years. We know the commitment and determination it takes to win races because we race too. We're determined to produce quality products that can help you get to the finish line first. Ask your dealer for Joe's Racing Products or visit us online at joesracing.com.
Buying or selling a home? It's more than a transaction, it's a strategy. I'm Amy Lynn, and I bring clarity, confidence, and results to your real estate journey. Whether you're searching for the perfect place to call home or preparing to list your home for top dollar, I've got you covered. With smart marketing, strong negotiation, and a network you can trust, I don't just help clients close, I help them win. Let's make your next move the right one.
All right, and we are back on the Let's Talk Short Track Racing podcast. Erin, you did a fantastic job there, leading that interview there with Johnny. Sorry about the audio issues that we're having over on my end, but I'm jealous. That was awesome. Johnny's one of those drivers where I'm a kid. I said it on the Mike Eddy episode. I'm a kid of the '90s, so when I'm just completely enamored in NASCAR racing and like ASA racing as a kid, Johnny's right there at the forefront. And if you look at Johnny's career, like, yeah, he didn't have like a Jeff Gordon or a Dale Earnhardt type career, but he had a 15+ year career in NASCAR, and he's literally the only person ever that can say they won an ASA championship, they won a Truck Series championship, and an Xfinity Series championship, and he got to do it racing against a lot of really, really good drivers. And it's great to see that when his NASCAR career ended, he's still finding a way to get to the track, and he's still having fun, and he's still kicking ass out there and getting to race these super modifieds, which I just still am just blown away by anytime I see them on track.
Yeah, I'm excited. We're taking a car up to Berlin, like I said, and I'm excited to see Johnny race and see these things on the track live for the first time.
I remember, I think the first time I ever saw one, my first reaction is, what the heck is that? My second reaction is, holy cow, how is that thing and why is that thing going so fast? And if I want to remember, I think I saw them, they were racing at Oswego, which is like a crazy track to watch and where they're known for. And so, and just kind of, getting to research Johnny a little bit. I mean, even when his NASCAR career is starting to wind down, I mean, that's where he went to. Sometimes you'll see guys that, maybe they'll go back and they'll dabble a little bit, either in like a late model or maybe go get a dirt car. But no, Johnny's like, you know what? I'm going full speed ahead and I'm getting behind the wheel of one of these super modifieds, that he talked about, like how his dad raced them back in the 60s. And he's like a little kid when his dad is doing that. But it's just so cool because Johnny is he is the definition of an old school racer, working in the shop as a little kid. I've heard him tell some really cool stories about, building a car at 13 years old. 13-year-old kids now, they don't even know how to put IKEA furniture together, let alone build a race car. And Johnny was working and building cars for people. And I've heard him tell some stories about him going on the road as a young kid and traveling and doing speed weeks and things like that. And just the life experience that he has been able to have in racing is, I think, what makes Johnny such a unique individual and somebody that, should be celebrated, because he is the definition of the old school racer. And man, I don't want him to hang it up. I don't want this to be the last year that Johnny's racing. I want him to keep racing as long as he can.
Yeah. And I think part of what made him so successful, as he was mentioning too, is the fact that he understands what really goes into the time and effort into these cars. So he really appreciates, and along with all drivers that are putting that effort into driving, they know what it takes in the shop after something happens.
Yeah, you break it, he's the one that's going to have to go fix it, and he didn't want to have to do that. He's one of those guys that knows anytime you put a scratch on that race car, anytime you make any kind of contact with another driver, you're just creating more time, more effort, and more money ultimately to have to get your car fixed. Wouldn't it just be so much easier for you to load the car back up, take it to the shop, and just do the standard basic maintenance that you have to do, rather than have to rip all your body panels off and reposition the car and put a clip on the front of the back of the car? Like Johnny, it's something that I think, in some interviews that I've heard of him before and just how he's talked, is he kind of had this reputation sometimes where you could maybe kind of take advantage of Johnny a little bit, to where, you knew he wasn't going to rough you up. He wasn't going to be the aggressor, but he was of that old school mentality where he's like, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to beat you clean. I'm going to beat you because I outraced you. And that's what I respect the most about Johnny, and just how he was able to take, how he was able to have success, rise up through the ranks. And then when he did have some adversity, he didn't let it get him down. And he was able to find a new avenue to continue his career and to still be successful. And I feel like he's one of those drivers that, to me, at the start of his 15-year career, I feel like he was just the same kind of driver and the same kind of person when it was all said and done. And he didn't let fame or a 15-year NASCAR career get to his head or change who he was as a person. And I think a lot of that talks about how he continued to work on and build race cars while he was still competing in NASCAR.
Yeah, it's definitely a testament to who he is and his career and how successful his career was.
Yeah, no, I was generally fascinated by his career arc and how he started and where he went. I mean, he went when he went from ASA, he got up into the Busch Series, basically with a brand new team. And within a year and a half, they're a championship-worthy, championship-winning team that even when he moves on into the Cup Series, that team continues to win. They win 3 Busch Series championships in a row when Randy LaJoie then takes over for him. And he goes into NASCAR, and yeah, he drove for a couple of different teams. But to me, the story, I love his, in the year 2000, he's left Roush Racing. He shows up to Daytona in a plain white race car, no sponsors on it at all, and has this incredible speed weeks, nearly wins the Daytona 500 in basically like an all-white blank car. And, he's able to take, again, like a brand new upstart team. And within a year or two, they're competing for wins. And he's able to parlay that into a successful career in the Truck Series, which I wish, I'd love to pick his brain. We got to get him back on again. I honestly think we need to get him on again. The Truck Series is so...
He has such a career that you could really dive into each segment almost of his career.
Yeah. I'd love to see, because the Truck Series was so different when he was racing. You had a lot of guys that had either been in Cup, been in Xfinity, had a lot of experience, and they were like, you know what, we can still drive, we're still competitive, we're going to race the hell out of each other. And all these young kids that are up and coming, if you're going to get to the next level, if you're going to get to Xfinity, if you're going to get to Cup, you got to race with us first. You're going to learn how to race. You're going to learn how to respect other guys on the track. But most importantly, you're going to have to try to beat us. And for a lot of guys, that was easier said than done. And Johnny proved that in the 4 full-time seasons he had in the Truck Series. He was a championship threat every single year, along with guys like Ron Hornaday and Todd Bodine and Jack Sprague. And now it's the truck. You look at the Truck Series, it's all these 18, 19, 20-year-old kids who, if they're in the Truck Series for more than 2 years, it's like something went wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something you really don't see is the people from Cup going back down to trucks. They just retire straight out of Cup is the trend right now.
I would love to, if you could have like Groundhog's Day where you just wake up and it's a repeated, thing. I would love to just bottle up like the 2004 and 2005 Craftsman Truck Series and let's just keep that going. Let's keep those same guys. Let's let them not get any older. Let's let them still go out there and race. And I used to love that era of racing, and Johnny was a huge part of it. But I'm excited to see how things turn out for him coming up here at Berlin. I know you guys are going to be really excited to get to take the Super Modified up there. I know I was kind of oohing and on over that thing when I was in the shop a couple of weeks ago. So I'm going to really look forward to seeing that. And I'm looking forward to joining you guys again here soon. I appreciate you guys the opportunity to come on and talk a little short track racing with you guys here every week.
Yeah, thanks for coming back, and we look forward to having you again soon. And it was great talking with Johnny tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this should be a lot of fun. I hope you guys have a good weekend. We got some big stuff coming up here. Short track world. For me, this is like my little summer break. So I'm getting to kind of be a fan now, and I get to kind of sit back and see what everybody's going to be doing over the course of the next few weeks. So I'm going to be tuning in, watching, on all the different streaming platforms and seeing, what all's going on. And I'm looking forward to some big races. I know UARA National, they were supposed to race at Jennerstown this week. That race got canceled. They were going to have some issues with weather. So URA National, they're not going to compete next until they're at Auburndale coming up in August 2nd. So that right now is going to be my next race with UARA. And I'm 1 month away from getting to head up to Stafford. I'm going to be working with Cletus's group for the New England 900, and we are 1 month away from getting to do that. So some cool stuff coming up.
Yeah, that sounds like it's going to be a blast. I hope you have fun with it. I will be looking forward to watching that.
Yes, for sure. We tend to have a good time no matter where we go, and Stafford last year was awesome. It was our first year there, and I think a lot of the fans up there, they're diehard modified fans, and I don't think they really knew what they were walking into. And I think it was pretty safe to say we're going to be going there for a few more years, because that place was jam packed. And it's always a good sign when you race Friday and Saturday, and on Friday at like 7 o'clock or 7:30 you run out of beer. That's usually a pretty good sign.
Yeah, that sounds like that group is a good time.
Yep, for sure. So yeah, again, thank you. I appreciate you did a great job there talking with Johnny and walking us through all that. I appreciate that, and I'm hoping I will be able to hopefully fix my audio issues, and I will do a better job here this next week. But thank you. You did an awesome job.
Thank you, and I look forward to having you back on soon.
Yep, sounds good. All right, we look forward to seeing everybody here. We'll be back again, another edition of Let's Talk Short Track Racing coming up. And big thank you again to Johnny Benson Jr. for joining us here this week. We'll see you coming up next week.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, my name is Joe Constance with Joe's Racing Products. My company has been producing high-quality racing components in the USA for over 30 years. We know the commitment and determination it takes to win races because we race too. We're determined to produce quality products that can help you get to the finish line first. Ask your dealer for Joe's Racing Products or visit us online at joesracing.com.
Buying or selling a home? It's more than a transaction, it's a strategy. I'm Amy Lynn, and I bring clarity, confidence, and results to your real estate journey. Whether you're searching for the perfect place to call home or preparing to list your home for top dollar, I've got you covered. With smart marketing, strong negotiation, and a network you can trust, I don't just help clients close, I help them win. Let's make your next move the right one.